Elon Musk claims U.S. government policies that are destroying the dollar. Donald Trump became the first former president to face fraud charges. And legendary bear Michael Burry has admitted his mistake and completely reinvented himself. How could these facts lead to serious problems for the U.S. dollar? And what implications will this have for financial markets and Bitcoin? Let's get to the bottom of this. Before we get to the main topic of the video, I want to focus on Michael Burry's statement and the Donald Trump story. The biggest bear, who became famous during the crisis of 2008, took back his words and apologized for calling to sell before the Fed meeting on the 1st of February. But he also said that he had not seen such a strong generation of bottom buyers since 1920th year. And 9 years later, the U.S. was hit by the Great Depression, which is still considered the greatest financial crisis of all time. Can this message from Burry be seen as a bet that now the Fed will continue to inflate the bubble, but it will burst? Write your opinion in the comments, and I'll quickly show you why the S&P 500 is back up 4,100 points, and Bitcoin is back above $28,000. There are 3 reasons at once. Inflation in Europe has fallen sharply, and now investors are waiting for a reversal in monetary policy. The Fed, after 2 weeks of printing dollars, returned to reducing the balance sheet, which can be regarded as a successful end to the banking crisis. And investors are so infected with positivity that despite Jerome Powell's promises to keep the rate throughout the entire 2023 year, they do not believe him and give a 100% chance that at least one rate cut will still occur this year. With such market sentiment, everyone should bet on growth. But then Donald Trump, who became the first former president of the United States to enter the arena according to the American law, this will not prevent Trump from running for president. But his rating can be multiplied by 0 if financial fraud is proved. You and I are interested in this story in light of the fact that Republicans will defend Trump, and this will escalate the political confrontation in Congress, which has only 2 months left to pass legislation to raise the national debt limit. Of course, even because of Trump, no one will go on principles and will not allow the default of the USA, but they can drag out this decision to the last, which will provoke volatility in the financial markets. That is, despite the predominance of bullish sentiment, both the S&P 500 and Bitcoin can shave very well locally. I am not making financial recommendations, just a warning to keep your finger on the pulse of events. I'll get to the main topic of the video about the collapse of the dollar as soon as you support the video with your likes. Or better yet, a subscription. Talk of the end of the dollar era has been going on for a long time and has recently intensified again. Could it be otherwise if, according to the latest news, Brazil and China have agreed to trade in national currencies? That is, will use the Chinese yuan instead of the US dollar in the calculations between them. Or another news, no less actively dispersed by the media, that China has reduced to its minimum since 2008 year investment in U.S. government debt. That is, the Treasury bond balance it holds. And add here a statement by Elon Musk, who obviously also read these news, so he wrote in Twitter, "A serious problem, N." And then he tried to explain his words by saying that such a decision was also influenced by excessive government spending, which led to a runaway inflation, which went far beyond the U.S. Well, shall we bury the dollar? Or shall we wait a bit and try to find the hidden meaning of the events taking place? If we start with Brazil, the meaning of their solution lies on the surface. China is the main trading partner for this country with an annual turnover of $150 billion. In fact, Brazil is economically dependent on China, which allows them to dictate their terms. And this comes in handy at a time when China continues to pursue an official course of building its own geopolitical world axis. As for the U.S. Treasury bonds on China's balance sheet, it is a little more complicated here. The official reason is the continuation of China's policy of destroying the dominance of the dollar in the global financial system, as well as the country's reaction to the fact that America is blocking dollars left and right as part of its sanctions policy. Countries do not like the latter, and so they are actively moving away from the dollar in their international reserves, replacing them with gold. In general, something like this makes sense, provided we look at exactly which countries the U.S. has blocked their savings in dollars. And this is an interesting list: Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, Afghanistan, and the latest to be added here is Russia, which was sanctioned for starting a full-scale war in Ukraine. By the way, China was given to understand that in the case of a military attempt to regain control over Taiwan, similar sanctions could be imposed on them to block international reserves, and formally this is a reason to reduce investment in U.S. government debt. However, this can only be an explanation of the situation on the surface. I have said before that the story of the possible war in Taiwan last year was largely about Xi Jinping's political ambition to break the long-standing principles of the Chinese Communist Party and remain leader for a third 5-year term, given that during his 10-year rule, the real situation in the economy had deteriorated significantly. It was necessary to give the people another lofty goal, which was the idea of regaining control of Taiwan, and a terrible external enemy was invented in the form of the United States. Now that Xi Jinping has effectively formalized his lifetime leadership of China, he technically has no reason to go to war over Taiwan. All analysts agree that in 10 to 15 years, the political scene in Taiwan will be such that they will move towards rapprochement on their own, especially if China strengthens its economic and political influence in the international arena during this time. So the issue of the war over Taiwan actually depends on whether Xi Jinping wants to feel like the leader of a belligerent country or not. I really hope not. And the story with the withdrawal from the U.S. Treasury bonds can be easily explained by the fact that in China, although put on pause, but the huge problems in the banking sector and real estate market have not disappeared anywhere. It takes money to patch these holes, and also China continues to actively invest in the countries that support it, which is also expensive. You could print and distribute the yuan to everyone, which would lead to a massive devaluation. Or you could have taken the necessary funds out of the investment in U.S. government debt, which has been done. More to the point, if Xi Jinping is not going to start a real war, then with the further course for lower inflation in the U.S. and a continued high Fed rate, U.S. government debt is again becoming a very attractive investment, and China may start to put money in it. This is just a guess, but I will follow the set statistics closely because it will show the return of world politics and the normalization of relations. Now Elon Musk, who I haven't forgotten about after the Democrats stripped Tesla of some of its preferential treatment in the U.S. market. He has dramatically begun to support Republicans, which largely explains his recent statements to the U.S. authorities. Also, Elon is going on a visit to China, where he is going to hammer out better terms for Tesla in the Asian market. Could he, for the sake of it, create an image that his Chinese comrades would like? Of course he did, because even his memes always have a hidden subtext. And the bottom line is, don't rush to bury the dollar just yet. For it to lose its status as the world's dominant reserve currency, a decent alternative must first emerge. To date, not the euro and the yuan, with all due respect to them, are not strong enough. And all the statements in the media on this topic are only dictated by the demand for such content. Although in the long term, the world is still moving towards the fact that other currencies will gradually deprive the dollar of its share of international trade. Thank you for watching your cryptocurrency.